I think many of these people are purposefully misleading people, or at least making misleading statements, or willfully remaining ignorant about certain things. The folks that I'm specifically talking about are those people that are talking about the MCU, the belief that Marvel has made this massive shift towards women taking over the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They want us to all band together to fight back against ladies. In this video, we are going to talk about why that is absolute nonsense. Stay tuned. Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to take a little bit of time to talk about the MCU, specifically why this notion of women taking over the Marvel Cinematic Universe is utter nonsense. There are a lot of people, I believe, that are purposefully stirring this pot to be controversial. They are making things up for whatever reason. And I honestly don't even know what the reasons are, but it seems like they are purposefully remaining ignorant to the facts of what is happening in the MCU. They are misleading people. They are repeating false narratives. And part of what I try to do here at the channel is push back against those things. Part of what we do is to make people smarter about the hobby of comic book collecting. And as part of that, I put information out there for people to consider, for them to be able to make up their own minds as to what is true or not. And the reality is that some people simply don't have the time to dig into all of the data. So I've actually done part of that work for you, and I'm going to present it, and you can make up your mind whether the MCU is a real thing or not, or whether there are people out there that are purposefully agitating parts of this hobby for whatever reason, and you guys can decide what that reason happens to be. But I would also tell you to go do your own research. Take what I'm saying here, go do a Google search or two, make up your own mind, and that will put you in a much better position. But without any further ado, I want to take a moment to talk about the MCU movies, because there is a false narrative out there that the movies are all female movies. The women are taking over. They're the lead in all the roles. It's not true. It's simply not true. When you look at the data, there have been or will be 33 movies that will be released by Marvel if you include the Marvels movie. 33 movies total thus far. Only 5 of those movies have actually had a female lead, and those 5 movies include Black Widow, Captain Marvel, Black Panther 2, The Eternals, and also Marvels, the soon-to-be released Marvels. 5 out of 33 is not all of the movies. It's certainly not even the last couple, because that's also what they say. The last several movies have all been It's not true. It's simply not true. I wanted to take it a step further because I wanted to look at how much money came in with these movies, because that's important. That's what they say. These movies with females, they all fail. Again, not true. Black Widow, $380 million is what it brought in at theaters. Captain Marvel, $1.1 billion. Black Panther 2, $854 million. Eternals, $400 million. And Marvels, we don't know exactly. But when you add up the 4 movies, $2.7 billion. $2.7 billion in gross revenue is not a flop. It is not. Some of the movies didn't do as well, right? But 2.7 is a real number. It is a fact, not an opinion. How much did these movies cost? They cost somewhere between $175 million and $250 million to make. Black Panther 2 was the most expensive, potentially because it was actually done during the pandemic and everything was more expensive. It cost $250 million. For example, Captain Marvel, $175 million. But in total, the 5 movies cost $1 billion to make. That's what they cost. When you do the simple math, 2.7 minus $1 billion means that these movies were profitable. $1.7 billion is what these 5 movies have brought in, not including one of them, which hasn't even been released, so we don't know how much money it's going to bring in. The point here is that the movies in which women have been leads have not failed. The Black Widow movie didn't do as well. Eternals didn't do as well. And when you look at what they cost to make, and even if you added like a few $100 million onto all of them, right? These movies are still profitable. They're still profitable. Even if you assume some additional money for marketing, they're still profitable. Some folks out there will say, well, take out Captain Marvel. It was a fluke. People only saw Captain Marvel because it was Avengers Endgame adjacent. Okay, take it out. Take it out. Take out 1.1 billion out of 2.7 billion, still profitable. Subtract out an additional billion for the cost, right? To produce the movies, still profitable. Still, no matter how you slice it, still profitable. The notion that movies led by women are flops is a false narrative. It is a false narrative. Push back on it because people are purposefully not looking at the numbers. Taking it a step further, let's look at the MCU TV shows, right? Because they say that they all flopped. They're all led by women. They're all flopping. Not true. Disney has released 12 or will release 12 shows if you include Echo and then the two special presentations, the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Werewolf by Night. 12 shows, only 4 of them have been led by women, not the majority. And again, we're talking about live action, not the majority, right? 4 of them. WandaVision, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and the soon-to-be released Echo. Again, those are the only ones that have been led by women. Let's dig a little bit deeper into some of the data. And I will tell you, the data here is not good, but the data is also telling because they say that these shows have flopped. It's not true. Some of them haven't done as well, admittedly so, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. But WandaVision is actually the 4th highest viewed show. When you look at the data for what people watched the first week that a show was released, it was the 4th highest show. That's not terrible in any way, shape, or form. 1.6 million people actually tuned in the first week to watch WandaVision. She-Hulk. A lot of people hated She-Hulk, right? But She-Hulk actually did as well as Hawkeye. It brought in 1.5 million viewers the first week that it was released. And then at the tail end of the data that we have, Miss Marvel didn't do well at all, right? But even still, it brought in 780,000 people to check out that show. Not terrible, not great, right? Not everything is going to be a home run. But the narrative that people will have you believe is that these shows that are led by women, these movies that are led by women, are all failing. And they seem to be making the argument that if you simply just made it a man, that these shows would do well. I don't know if that is true. These people are also ignoring all of the other factors that exist in the world, as if movies and TV shows just happen in this little bubble and there were no other contributing factors as to maybe why the numbers don't always look so positive. The biggest factor that people are ignoring is the economy. The way that the economy looks has looked over the last few years is not the way that it looked in the first few years of the MCU. It does not look the same. People are very concerned about what's going on. We have wars that are breaking out. We have countries that are invading other countries right now. It's not exactly the same world. And so you have to recognize the impact of inflation and the impact on the economy. That's huge. Another huge factor is that movie theaters have not recovered and potentially might never recover from the pandemic. When you look at the data and you look at the total box office, when you look at how many tickets are actually being sold, it is not close. 2023 does not look like 2019, which was, I think, at a pretty high point. They're not comparable. The movie theaters have not recovered, and there are lots of reasons for that, like the economy, like the fact that there are so many streaming platforms out there that are also competing for dollars, and the fact that during the pandemic, the studios released a lot of content directly to the streaming platforms. They were rushing movies there, which allowed people to just stay at home and watch their favorite movie instead of rushing out to the theaters. Another huge factor is that the major studios are not releasing as much content as they were in like 2019, for example. The reasons being the economy, also the ongoing strikes that have been taking place, right? Those are all contributing factors as to why things don't look the same. It is not the fact that a woman happens to be in the lead. Some other factors that are contributing to this is the idea of quantity over quality, right? The MCU took advantage of the pandemic by generating and creating a ton of content and putting it out there for people to consume. That has repercussions, right? They put out so much content that people started to push back on it because they weren't feeling that it was as special. Now, here's the thing. I'm not even blaming certainly women, but I'm not blaming the writers even. A lot of people say it's the writer's fault. I've never seen a writer green light a project. A writer writes it, but then you have other people behind the camera that are also making decisions. You have, producers and directors and special effects artists that are all involved in the creation of these movies and TV shows that we see. And we've seen and heard a lot of the pushback from the special effects folks, for example, with the long hours and the unrealistic deadlines that they're being given. The quality has suffered. There is no doubt about it. People are ignoring that. They're like, it's just because it's a woman. That's the lead. That's why it fails. That is not true. There are many factors that are contributing to what we are seeing right now. They are choosing to ignore these facts and blame it simply on Brie Larson or whoever they hate today, right? That seems to be the big argument. They're not taking the time to actually consider all of these other factors that come into play. At the end of the day, I am not defending Hollywood because I've been accused of that. I don't care about Hollywood. I really don't. What I care about is the hobby. And I care about people being accurate in what they're saying. I don't like people dooming movies and TV shows before they even come out simply because a woman happens to be the star. That's wrong. Like, no matter how you look at it, that's wrong. It's going to be trash. It hasn't even come out. How do you know? You haven't even seen a trailer, but it's going to be trash because because it's a chick, that it's going to fail. I push back on false narratives as best I can because I care about the hobby, not because I care about Hollywood. I want all of these movies and TV shows to do well. And at the end of the day, I think what Marvel and DC need to do is to focus on putting out quality content. If you focus on that, I think we're going to be in a better position. But I'll be honest, for these folks that are purposefully lying, I don't even think that a good show is going to be received because they are very comfortable lying to themselves and also lying to other people. So even if they saw something that was good, they will find a way to say that it's bad so that they can save face and so that they can continue to reinforce the false narrative that Marvel is becoming all female. I personally like women, so who cares? With that said, I want to encourage you to sound off in the comment section. Let me know what you think about what I've spoken about here. If you have a different opinion, that's okay. Voice your opinion, but try to use some data. If you actually have some actual numbers, that goes a long way instead of I think, I believe, I feel, which is all opinion-based stuff. Let's stick with the facts and let's draw conclusions based upon the data that we actually see. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
This thing on? Mic check. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me clearly. Yo. Should you practice art? Or should art be your practice? I had a question, so I asked it. Not to anyone specifically, but to my inner God, you know? The one that's gonna be a master. The one that's more than a rapper. The one that's an educator. The one that seeks enlightenment. He travels with concepts. He's got the mindset expansive. He understands that his time combined with travel and concepts makes his mind convex. Sort of like when you look at a brain scan. Straight off meditation, we was concaving until we had that eternal dialogue that created our dialect. Now we in distinct rooms of pure souls having them conversations. Synergy and combination.